Welcome to the Apply Pressure Podcast with yours truly, Transformer Chris. Here, we dig deep and go beyond the surface, uncover what's hidden, talk straight, no fluff, share secrets, give advice, and keep it all the way real regarding life. Listen, sis, I know you be busy doing what you do, but child boo, I really need to talk to you. This week's episode is going to be all about the cover photo for this season's podcast and how it ended up making a cut. I really want to hear y'all thoughts, so make sure y'all leave a comment because a lot of consideration went into it, more than you probably know. I literally had to get together a whole focus group to have some real deep discussions regarding whether or not this photo should have made the cut for this season's podcast. And the reason for that is because after I did the initial graphic for the cover, I showed it to my husband who, shout out to him, does all of my production work. And prior to him uploading it into the system, he stressed to me his thoughts about it. And needless to say, he was in total opposition of that graphic making the final cut. So you know how we do. We began to deliberate on why he felt the way he felt regarding it and what he got from it after he looked at it. And then in return, I stressed to him what I saw when I looked at the cover and why I felt so strongly about it. However, because I'm not a person who like to just take my word for things or see things one-sided, I always like to get a broader perspective. One of the things that I've learned over the years was the best way to do that is to hear other people's interpretation of the same thing or to hear someone else's opinion regarding the matter. So I'm going to let y'all in on some of the things that was said during our group discussion. I chose to share this because the conversation had got so intense. Like the things that people are able to pull from just an image says so much. And honestly, I don't believe that a lot of people give pictures the credit that they actually deserve. Do you know that an image actually has a voice without a mouth? It has the ability to speak and to tell a story. But even then, it's all merely based upon the viewer and their particular state of mind or way of thinking, how they see the world, how they grasp what their eyes are beholding. So because our conversation had gotten so good, in the middle, I just stopped and was like, this right here would have made an awesome podcast. I was so upset with myself that I didn't think to record it beforehand. But to my defense, I had no idea that it was even going to go that far. So when it did, I was like, man, this would have been a very good episode. And I missed the moment. The good stuff always happens when we least expect it, right? But what I love about podcasts and about books and teaching moments is you have the ability to revitalize things, bring it back up and talk about it again. I could have chose to let the conversation die after we brought it to a close. But instead, I decided to use this platform right here as an opportunity to give other people the chance to listen in on some very powerful feedback that all stem from posing that one question of what the cover photo said to them when they looked at it. After you all listen, I actually want to give you the opportunity to do the same thing. Although you see the cover has already been selected, I still would like to get your honest feedback. Who do you agree with more? What did you think about when you first saw it? What vibe does it give off to you? And this is actually really good because many of you listening don't know me, which makes it even better. That was one of my concerns when we had the initial discussion. I stressed to the focus group the importance of not letting the fact that they knew me create a bias when they gave their opinion. I wanted them to be honest. I wanted them to be true to how they really felt. I wanted them to pretend as if they didn't know me at all. Like they were just scrolling along through the podcast library looking for something new to listen to. And one of the questions that I asked them was, if you were scrolling through the podcast library and you came across this photo, do you think it would be something that you just skip by? Or was something in the picture captivate you enough to click on it? And I'm actually very proud at this moment because all of you that's tuned in listening now means that something prompted you to click on it. So praise God for that. But Really quickly, I just want to go over some of the highlighting moments that I can remember from our conversation. Initially, when I was talking to my husband about it, he felt as though the background didn't mesh well with the image of me. He felt as though my attire was dressy and the image of me was vibrant and full of light. But the background displayed something totally different. He felt as though there was a contrast, and I'm actually going to say what he said. Some of you may know what I'm talking about, but others of you may have to go watch it so that you get it. But he said it reminded him of a scene in the Men in Black movie. The scene when Will Smith was going through training and he was being assessed on how well he responded to crime scenes. One of the scenes was full of monsters and aliens, and it had one little girl in the midst of all that terror. And Will Smith, being an officer that arrived on the scene, he began to shoot, and out of everyone, he chose to shoot the little girl. Afterwards, during, the evaluation process, the trainer asked him, why did he shoot the little girl and not the monsters and the aliens that were there, because they clearly looked to be the most threatening. But Will Smith's response was because she was the only one that looked out of place. She was the only one that looked like she did not belong there. When I tell y'all, I started cracking up laughing. I was like, wow, I totally get it. It made so much sense what he was saying, because if you look at the picture for the podcast, you'll see that it's like a dark and almost alley looking atmosphere with no people around. And then you have me all fancy looking and I'm smiling and full of life. It's like the two are total opposite. He was like, babe, it looked like you don't belong there. So I do get it now, but it still amazes me that that wasn't what I initially saw, or that wasn't what I initially got from it. I told him what I saw when I looked at the photo, and I'm going to share it with you all as well, but I want to give you some of what the other people said before I give away what was my initial mindset. Because I was the visionary, so I don't want to spoil it and get y'all on my side. I want to give y'all a chance to hear what they said, as well as, you take another look at it, and I want you to tell yourself what you think before I give you what I think about it. So I reached out to one of my close girlfriends, and I asked her, I said, I'm about to send you a picture, and it's the picture of what I'm considering to be the cover photo for season 3 podcast. I want you to give me your honest feedback. After I sent it to her, she called me on the phone, and I told her I was putting her on speaker so that me and my husband could both hear what she said. So I put the phone on speaker, and she was like, I love it. She was like, this is everything. I love the way you look in the picture. I love the energy that you're bringing. I love what you have on. And I was like, okay, but I want you to look at the picture as a whole, everything about the picture. And then she said, the background is kind of dark and it's gloomy, and I don't really know how I feel so much about that. But then when I look deeper, it makes me feel like because you're there and you are serving the way you're serving in this picture, even with that being the background, it just makes me think that even though this is you and who you are, that you're still a person that knows how to get to the nitty gritty of things, and you know how to get down and dirty. So that's what she depicted when she looked at the picture. She was like, now, I don't know if that would have been my choice for that to be the background, but because it is, and I have to tell you what I get from it, then that's what I see. Now, I forgot to mention the fact that one of the things that my husband said was that either the picture needed to change or the background needed to change. He said maybe the background should be like a beach with some sand or something like that, something with some sunlight. Something different that matched how I looked. And I wanted to go back and make sure that I said that, because that was another point that my girlfriend pointed out as well. She was like, now, Chris, I know you got a lot of pictures. How about you just change the picture? if you change the picture, then maybe it'll complement the background better, because the background gives more of a street look. So maybe you could just change the picture out. And I was like, okay. And I thanked her for her feedback. And then I went on to call the next person, which was one of my sisters. I said the same thing to her when she got on the phone. I was like, okay, I'm going to send you a picture that I'm considering to use as the cover photo for the podcast. And I want you to look at it, then call me back and give me your honest feedback. So she called back and I put her on speakerphone. She was like, okay, I see the name of the podcast and I see that it says, welcome to the Transformation Chamber. But I don't get how the words really go with the picture so much. And I was like, okay. And then I told her, I'm like, all right, I don't want you to get so caught up on the words. They are a part of it, but I didn't want her to get fully caught up on that, trying to match the words with the picture. I wanted her to view the picture all together as a whole. I wanted her to tell me what it said to her, how it made her feel. So she was like, well, if I look a little deeper, I see that it's a light in the background, and how the light is shining down. It almost looks as if you're walking out of darkness. It's something about the way the light kind of shine down and hit you. And because your picture is so bright and happy and the background is so dark, the way the light is shining down, the picture kind of transitions from a dark place into, stepping into the light. And I was like, I get it. Like, that make perfect sense. Then I asked her to give the phone to her husband, which was going to be the final person that I asked. Now, he is somebody who I know firsthand is big on doing stuff like this. He's always analyzing pictures and interpreting dreams and stuff like that. The type of guy that's always studying and searching and looking real deep into stuff. Like, he's real critical and always fine-tuning things. So I already knew that once I got to him, a lot was going to come from it. And sad to say, but he went in favor of my husband's standpoint. He didn't feel like one thing complemented the other. And he didn't feel like it vividly displayed the message that's behind it. It wouldn't have been obvious to someone who didn't know me. He believes that someone should be able to understand upon first glance, and that it would have probably been better for me to go with a different picture. Another thing that he advised me on was making sure that it spoke to the people and not just me satisfying my own feelings about it. Because it's important for me not to get lost in my own emotions and to remain open-minded. So everyone pretty much agrees that the picture should be able to tell the story without me giving any justification or explanation in regards to it. And believe me, I get it. Like, I get it. I didn't expect anything less from any of them than their honest opinion. That's why I asked them. So after hearing them all out, I told them, I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come up with some other mock-ups, see if I can change the background on some of them, and then see if I change the picture of me on some of them, and then maybe it'll turn out better. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pray and see exactly what God wants me to do regarding it, because I felt so strong about what I produced. I felt so passionate about it. And then after all of that, my husband was like, you know what? I heard your explanation behind what you initially designed. And after he saw how passionate I argued my perspective, he got it. He understood how I felt about it. And he was like, listen, Chris, if this is what God gave you, and if you feel that strong about it, don't let nobody take that from you. Now, he wasn't telling me not to hear anybody out. I don't want y'all to think that, we think it's wise to just rely on your own way of thinking or your own way of doing things. No, there is safety amongst a multitude of counselors. But there is also a such thing as God giving a vision directly to you. When you feel something so strongly in your gut, when you are true to who God has called you to be, you shouldn't be easily swayed. Sometimes you have to learn to stand 10 toes down in what you believe, because at the end of the day, if it was given to you, It is solely up to you to see it through. Everyone may not see things the same way, but you have to remember that you do have a certain audience to reach and a tribe of people that's assigned directly to you. You'll miss out on those people if you aren't confident in who you are and what you do. Now, I'm completely grateful for the feedback that I got from my family, and with every endeavor moving forward, I will consult with those same people because they give thought to their steps and they will never guide or direct me in the wrong way. They always got my back and got my best interests at heart. But I have to say this because I don't want y'all to get confused because I decided to go with the initial picture and take it as if I didn't value what they were telling me, because that would be so far from the truth. And the reality is this: after I gave the explanation, all of them, every single one of them, even with them feeling how they felt about it, was like, wow, now that you said that, it makes sense. Their only argument at that point was that they didn't want the message behind the picture to be lost because everybody wouldn't hear the explanation. And they weren't convinced that the picture was enough to tell the story on its own. Hence the reason for me doing this episode, because it now gives you all the opportunity to hear firsthand. So here is what my perspective was regarding the cover photo. This is why I decided to design it the way I did. What it says about me and who I am and what I've been through, where I've been and where I'm going. The reason that I chose the street background to couple together with a picture of me that was so light and exuberant, even though it didn't match my attire, was because I feel like I represent the best of both worlds. And I'm sure that many of you listening can attest to being that person who is the best of both worlds. The type of person that can relate to both sides. I feel like if I would have changed my attire to more of a street look, that I would only be targeting one demographic of people. And if I changed my background to complement the attire that I was wearing, then I will only be reaching one demographic of people. But if I merge the two together, then both demographics will be able to find something in that picture that they could relate to. I feel like that's who I am as a person. I'm West Philly born and raised. I grew up in, the hood, the street life. Not nothing too bad, but y'all get it. But that's a part of who I am. That's a part of my process. That's a part of what made me. I love where I'm from because it made me a better person. I don't discount any of it. I believe that some of the best people are the ones that's balanced and know both sides because they represent balance and they're less judgmental and more relatable. They are the ones who are real and are reachable. I know what it's like to want to dress up and want to be glamorous and attracted to lavish living. But not only that, I also know how to just fall back and chill and appreciate the small things. Hanging out on a porch, spending time joking around and playing cards with family and friends all night. But I also know doom and gloom as well. And most importantly, I know what it's like to be exposed to marvelous light, where everything changes and God changes the way you see everything. So to me, having both sides is a blessing. Whenever I come before you all as a speaker, I come in the purest form of myself, and that embodies all of me. I believe that so many people get stuck on one aspect of life because they don't believe that they belong in another. But I believe that you can go wherever your heart desires, no matter where you've been. I feel like you can be whoever it is that you want to be and who God is calling you to be, no matter who you used to be or what you used to do. You have to give yourself the permission to become. All of those things can coexist and make something beautiful, believe it or not. A lot of people can relate more to somebody who shows every aspect of who they are. There are people who come from the street life that feel like they can't cross over into entrepreneurship, or they can't cross over into successful living or into living a godly lifestyle. Some of you don't think it's possible for you to cross over into glitz and glamour because you lived through the thick of things and had to crawl your way through the muck and the mire. Then there are those of you who have made it to a more fortunate and abundant side of life. And now you feel as though you can't reach back and touch where you came from because you feel like there's this line there that can't be crossed. I think that's what causes division and stops us from being unified as a whole. If you have the ability or capability, then you should be willing to reach back and stand in the gap for others to cross over. Always use your light to shine into darkness. I'm constructing a transformation chamber with what I do. I want to set the precedent that transformation is possible. Transformation is not out of reach. Transformation is your birthright. Do not cut yourself off at the knees or limit your reach. Don't you dare stunt your growth. Accept all of who you are and put that on display. Most people appreciate the beauty of a flower so much because of where it came from. They know the dirt that helped it to transform and blossom. Stop being afraid to show your dirt. Your dirt helped make you. It's the dirt that you've been through and the darkness that you've walked through that helped you get to where you are now. And that is what gives people hope. This picture represents that for me. My life isn't all roses, and it isn't all weeds. Sometimes it was dark, and other times full of light. So it doesn't matter if you put me on a stage or in a boardroom. It doesn't matter if you put me on a dark block or a sunny beach. You can put me in a regular smegular apartment or a lavish condo. I will show up the same way that y'all see me in that picture. Why? Because that is who I am. And who I am doesn't change based off of where I'm at. Where I'm at has to change based off of who I am. Okay, ladies, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you stay caught up and don't miss out on what's next. If you're enjoying this atmosphere, be sure to go and leave your girl a review. That way this platform can continue to evolve and build a strong network of empowered women of purpose. Until next time, hop over to my website. Make sure you subscribe and capture all the latest products and free giveaways by visiting www.crystalmetellus.com. Also, connect with me on social media @CrystalMetellus. Talk to you later, sis.